Hi there, welcome to this week's podcast. This week, I want to dive into such a juicy topic, and this is about leveling the playing field between men and women in business. Now, I would love to say that there isn't a difference and that we both have equal opportunities in this. But if we're honest with ourselves, the subconscious blocks that women bring into their leadership and business is unreal compared to a man. And I'm going to be diving into why that is. But I want you to listen to this with an open mind to start to see, are any of these subconscious blocks coming up for you? And how are they playing out in your life? And then how are they affecting your business? Because these subconscious blocks are affecting our success. And I am here to eradicate them so that we don't have to face all of this hold-ups, setbacks, lack of belief in ourselves, or lack of abundance in our business. It's time to start changing things around so that we use our unique power and we use our strength and our super strengths as a woman in order to bring that to our business and help other people. That's ultimately what most of us want. We're here with a big mission and we're here to help other people in some way, shape, or form. But we can't do that if we are still holding ourselves back at a core place in this society. So I want to talk a little bit about our history as women and how this can be impacting us without us even realizing in our business. Now, I touched on last week a little bit around the witch wound, and I'm going to be diving into that a bit more so you can start to understand it. But there's also things in your own generations and your own families that you'll be able to relate and pull on. And I'll share some of my experiences of how this has impacted me in my business and how I've overcome things in order to be more visible, in order to be more authentic, and in order to lead from that place of power instead of feeling like, who am I to do this? Or why should I have that stage? Or am I safe to have that stage? Because that is a huge part of this as well. Feeling safe. If your nervous system doesn't feel safe, you are not going to put yourself out there in the same energy as someone who does. And that can impact who you attract into your business, level of income you attract in, and all sorts of things that are just holding you back from your own greatness, which we don't want. What I want to talk to you about is this history of women and how this has really started to impact us and how it still plays out in society. I did talk about the witch wound, and when we talk about the witch wound, if you think there was women all over Europe and America that were hunted during history, and they were hunted due to believing they were a witch. And the belief of thinking someone was a witch come from powerful women, people who led from the front, people who were vocal, people who used their intuition. They thought that was witchcraft. People who were good with nature and made it for potions and different herbal remedies that would help people. There was lots of different reasons. Some were actually accused of being a witch because of seduction. So if they were attractive to the people who were the witch hunters, that again caused suspicion, like they had cast this spell on them. There was people who were marks on their body and they were accused of being witches. There was lots of different reasons, but it was all aimed mainly at women. And the point of it was that there was a fear of women having this power. There was a fear of women having power over men and power over men to seduce them, to influence them, to cast spells on them in some way. And what it allowed us to do as women is really doubt that magic and that sensuality that we bring. It stopped us doubting the attractiveness that is a woman that has that energy to attract. So if you think of our divine feminine energy is to attract and allow, that was stripped from us at a core element. And also not just stripped from us, but that fear went throughout nations. It literally stripped through countries, that fear of this attraction and allowing and that energy of what we are as women, deeper our soul. that caused fear and a ripple effect. And it started to rip things out of us that were taken from us. And we haven't really gained it back fully. So if you think of that, what happened was women would turn on each other because they'd want to keep themselves safe. People, villages would turn on each other because they would try and keep themselves safe. So they would pinpoint to someone being a witch, or they would claim that someone is, because it would deflect any energy from themselves. It would deflect that witch hunt from themselves. So there was people that were pushed out, people rejected, people pushed out of the community, hunted down by their community for being different or being vocal or sometimes being attractive. There was lots of different reasons why this would happen. But what was happening was you were ultimately being pushed out, outcast, hunted, and this energy of not feeling safe, feeling isolated, feeling alone. Then there was the energy of conflict. So this energy of having to fight against each other, really, where you had to prove that someone else was a witch, whereas you weren't. So it was really around this turning against each other. And if you start to think of this, obviously this was a long time ago, but you start to think of how this is molded through society, even to today. Men naturally have more power than women. They are more put into leadership roles. They are thought more highly when it comes to those leadership roles. They are told that they articulate themselves better. So when we see a confident, outspoken man, we see that as power. We see an confident, outspoken woman, we see it as pushy or aggressive. We don't often see the two equals. Men are often put on this pedestal that really, without us realizing what we're doing, it's still in us. I know when I was younger, my grandma was very focused on men being more important than women, not to the point where she would say it out loud, but her actions and her words would say that exact same thing. She would put my granddad on a pedestal and she'd run around, and all her day was about making him happy, making him comfortable, making him okay with everything. And then when it come to me and my brother, if me and my brother were in the room and I would say something jokingly about my brother, she would tell me off. You can't talk about your brother that way. You shouldn't be doing that. And that was how my life, from a young age, we're talking of those informative ages, that was a big influence on me to start to see this is how men and women operate. And you'll have your own generational stories around that. But we've started to unconsciously absorb how you think men and women operate and how that's different, and how we have to silence ourselves because we can't then talk against a man. So for me, I had to really silence myself, not around my brother, around my grandma. I had to watch what I said so I didn't offend her beliefs on what she thought was man and woman differences. And what that did was, even though I felt like I was different and I could see it differently, it still allowed me to subconsciously take those beliefs in, which played out for me in my own relationship with my husband. My job in that relationship was making sure he was okay. I put myself on the back burner to make sure he had everything he needed. He was totally comfortable. The things I necessarily needed were not taken care of, but that was okay because he was okay. Even though I thought, oh, I can see what she's doing, subconsciously, I still repeated those patterns. And what that allowed me to do was that allowed me to play small for many years. It allowed me to put my dreams on the back burner and think they weren't important. It allowed me to not really say what I wanted, because if I said what I wanted, it wouldn't get heard. It wouldn't be taken into consideration because it wasn't as important as what he wanted and he needed. So you might have your own stories around this, and you might be thinking, well, yeah, that's okay, but then how does it apply to business? Well, it applies to your business because if you're not willing to say what you want, if you're not willing to go after what you want, if you're not willing to stand in your power and say that you are worthy of having that, and you are coming to the table with that level of smallness, then that is what you are attracting in. You're attracting in that same level of smallness in your business. You're attracting in that level of getting what you don't actually want. So you might be finding that you're working with clients that you don't want, or you're charging prices that don't feel right for you just to keep people happy. It might be that you're overgiving in your client relationships. So you're giving too much and not getting enough back. These things are how these wounds start to play out. The other thing around the witch wound is anyone who has spoken or was a leader really was hunted down. So that idea of a woman being a leader, and when we look at women in leadership roles now, they often get persecuted. They often get torn down. You just have to look in this country. And now I'm not saying Theresa May was a good prime minister, but what I'm saying is she got a level of hate that was very strong compared to a man who would have been in that situation. We've had worse prime ministers than that, and they have not come under the same level of scrutiny as someone like Theresa May did because she's a woman. You just have to look at the situation at the moment in America. America would decide to put a known sex offender into the position of power over having a Black woman in power. That says a lot for itself, doesn't it, around what we think of as women in power. And this then stops us leading from the front in our business, sharing ideas that are new and different and could go against those old ways of looking at things. Being out there with our posts and being visible as I am the leader, I am the expert in this field. So many men claim themselves to be experts when they've maybe read a book and don't really know much about the topic, but they will say they are the expert in it. A woman will do 5 years of study and will be the expert and then still won't claim that she's the expert in it because she doesn't want to be seen as showing off. How much have you had of this growing up? Being told not to show off. Don't shine too much. You'll outshine your siblings. Don't be loud and proud about what it is that you've done because it's class. You're being a bit showy, calm it down a little bit. You don't have to tell everybody. How many times did we have that growing up? I know for me, I was one of the more intelligent ones in my family. So like academically wise, I did really well. And it was always kind of like limiting myself. So I didn't upset the apple cart too much, or I didn't show off too much because I was one of those who was good at lots of things. And I used to get those backhanded comments of, oh, you're just so good at everything. And instead of being like, yeah, I am, and like being proud of that, I would try and dim my light and be like, oh, well, no, I'm not really good at this, or I don't do this very well. And how many of you do that now? You get a compliment and you go, oh, but this old thing, no, because you're trying to lower your vibrations and your frequency all the time. You're trying to dim your light. And we do it all the time. But as well, we get those backhanded comments and often we take them to heart. That, oh, you're good at everything. Rather than turning that on its head and going, hell yes, I am. Thank you very much. What I used to do was lower that down. I had this conversation with one of the women who was in the Success Academy. She loves traveling and she was going traveling all the time. And someone had commented about her traveling and did that backhanded, snide comment about it. And instead of going, I know, isn't my life amazing that I get to do this? She tried to justify why she was traveling all the time and lower that vibration. Whereas actually, she could have just went, yeah, no, isn't life fab that I get to do this? I had one of those backhanded comments from my family, and they said something like, oh, Rachel always gets what she wants in the end, because we were having a conversation about me and Mike, and Mike's a bit of a slow burner in my household. I'll have a wild idea, and it takes a little bit of influencing and a little bit of getting him round, but he does always come round to my ideas in the end. Influencing is a superpower, believe me. When I said this to my family, I got the backhanded, oh, Rachel always gets what she wants. And at that point, there was a bit of me that went, oh, that was a bit of a dig. But then there was the bit of me that's changed and evolved, and I went, yes, I do. Because I do always get what I want. The universe always delivers to me. And what I've decided to do is turn this power round. Instead of turning it off and dimming my light, now I choose to take it all in and amplify my energy with it and amplify my feminine energy, my attractiveness, all of those things, because that is where my feminine power lies. My feminine power lies by healing all of these things that have happened, not just to me in this lifetime, but have happened to my ancestors and the past women before us. And the way that we do that isn't by sitting down and journaling it all out all day long. The way that you do that is you start to show up differently. You start to change this for future generations. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping women make money and have the most successful businesses. Because the more we do this, the more we break this witch wound that is keeping us stuck. This witch wound goes deep into each and every woman. And it is about keeping women small, and it's about keeping women from their purpose, and it's about keeping women in a lower place of power than men. You'd love to think that it wasn't, but ultimately that's what it was. The church brought out this fear in us, and men were the hierarchy in the church, and they wanted to put this fear of God into each and every woman alive and strip them of what they had that was powerful. And believe me, they did it. They did it, and they have done it for years because of this energy that is deep rooted through us. Now, this mass fear and mass hysteria has literally put into us a core energy of this. And you can look into research now about how mass coming together, collectives of meditation, collectives of energy that's like positive energy, can have an impact on things that you don't even realize. So if you think how mass fear can have the same impact, it really, really does. And it has ingrained in us for years. It's about now starting to look at how has this fear been adopted by your subconscious, and how can you start to change it? So there's some questions to start asking yourself. Where do you put your importance as less than men around you? That could come down to your son. It could come down to your father, your partner, could come down to your boss. There's lots of things where this can start to play out. But where is that hierarchical system playing out in your life? And where are you putting yourself on that hierarchical system? It might be in your business where you are wanting clients to like you rather than pay you. It might be where you are wanting to overgive to clients so that they give you this amazing review, or they feel like you're worth spending the money on. There is lots of ways this can be showing up for you, but being honest with yourself of where are you putting yourself as less than others is a great start. Because at a soul level and at an individual level, absolutely no one is less than. Absolutely no one is unworthy. So is there an element of you that is dropping your worthiness? Because that will start attracting less worthiness within your business. So where has that been playing out for you, and how are you starting to notice it and become aware of it? And then the next thing is, where are you scared of showing off? Where are you scared of putting yourself out there? Are you scared of saying what you do loudly and proudly around people you know, around social media? Where are you actually holding back and not wanting to show off or look as too much? Which parts of your business or which parts of your life are you scared of seeming too much? That is a huge one to start to look at and work through, because when we think we are too much, we hold ourselves back the most because we want to fit in. And the third one is, where do you desperately want to fit into? Where have you been trying to fit in? Now, the big one I see with clients is when they start to do mindset work, when they start to do energy work, they start to outgrow their normal routines. They start to outgrow the normal people around them, which means that they get comments from family or friends like, you've changed. And this then makes them question themselves as to whether that's a good change or a bad change, because relationships might start to break down. Friendships might start to disappear. You might not feel aligned with your usual friend group like you did before. And this fear of being rejected or this fear of being outcast starts to play out without you even noticing it. So what you then start to do is you start to play smaller. You then want to fit in. And sometimes, especially when you're a coach and you're a couple of steps or even more ahead of your clients, you want to show them that you were one of them. You want to show them that you've been there, you've been through it, and that's why you can help them. But ultimately, the energy that helps them isn't that you're there with them, you're one of them. It's that you broke free of it. And this is the big part that people miss when they're actually developing things or putting themselves out there. I'm not looking to work with someone who's in exactly the same place as me and totally gets me. Yes, I'd love it if you've got some connection to it, but actually I want to see you at the point where you've broken past that. And to break past that, you have to break out of this fear of being rejected, break out of this fear of being different. Because if we're all the same and we're trying to fit into that mold, no one's going to grow. So you've got to start to think of, it's not about being rejected. It's about growing to a new level. It's about changing. Relationships come and go. People in your life will come and go, but you're allowed to change and evolve. And knowing that is your superpower. If you allow yourself to change and evolve and grow without fear of losing people, you gain more. You're going to gain more along the way. It really is about allowing yourself to outgrow those relationships now, because there's something better that's going to fill that place. And it's either a better dynamics with that person or it's a better person altogether. It's not necessarily means that change is bad. It just means that it's change. That fear of being rejected can be playing out in lots of different ways. And it can be playing out from you with your sales calls. Potentially you entering sales calls thinking, I've got to make this work. I've got to work with this client, rather than seeing if it's a good fit for both of you. And is it going to work longer term? And do you want to work with that client? I know when I first started my business, I felt like any client was good, but not any client is good for you. You're not going to always connect with all your clients. So it's about who do you want to work with and why, and being able to choose that, being able to choose what you want. And that's what I want to go into lastly, allowing yourself to choose and allowing yourself to say what you want. I started to notice this after I broke up with my husband and I went into a new relationship. He would ask me, what do you want for tea? And I'd say, oh, I don't know. What do you want? And that was my response all the time. And he would get quite angry with me, like, I'm asking, what do you want? What do you want? And I couldn't bring myself to actually say even what I wanted to eat. It was a case of I had spent so long putting somebody else's needs above my own that I couldn't even bring myself to say, I want chicken for tea tonight. It was ridiculous. That was a small example, but it fed into everything because I wasn't asking for what I wanted in any part of my life, let alone my business. So like I said, I was starting my business and I was working with people who I thought I could work with, rather than actually saying who I wanted to work with, rather than actually saying what part of my business I wanted to focus on. I was just trying to be everything to everyone. And it was about me helping rather than about me creating a business and a legacy and income to sustain what I wanted to do. I was overgiving and giving out everything for free, not wanting to charge, not wanting to ask for money, because this was seeping into my business that I couldn't ask for what I wanted. So turning that around was super powerful. It's allowed me to create a business where I now work with people I want to work with. It's allowed me to attract in the right clients for me, and it's allowed me to charge exactly what I want to be charging. And now I base my charges on what suits me and what suits their expansion. It is not about what will people pay me or what do people want to pay me or what do people think I'm worthy of. I don't need that validation of worthiness. I know that I can get what I ask for, because when I ask for something from a deep soul calling, it is completely aligned. It's really starting to look at, do you even ask for what you want in all aspects of your life? Or are you putting that on the back burner? There are so many ways I could go into how these wounds and these deep wounds for women really play out on us. But the big things are, it plays out on your worthiness. It plays out on what you feel you can charge. It plays out in how you speak up and show up in your business. It plays out in whether you are bringing all aspects of yourself to your business. For me, I felt like my spiritual coaching and my life coaching, my more corporate coaching, had to be separate. There were two separate identities. Leadership and spirituality did not go, and I could not merge the two together. Boy, was I wrong. As soon as I merged my leadership and my spirituality, that is when the magic happened. By trying to split them off and think one was better than the other, that was when my whole business was in disarray. And I'll dive into that a bit more in another episode. But it's starting to look at, where are you having these conflicting thoughts about who you can be? And why are you thinking you need to be a certain way? When you pinpoint it, it probably goes back to these deep healing wounds that we need to really work on as women. And this is why I've brought out the Visibility Queen. It's not about getting you more seen on social media. It's not about putting your face out there more, because actually you could do that. And if you didn't feel safe doing it, your energy would not match. But it's about healing all of these subconscious blocks that we are holding onto, so that when you do show up on social media, you are full of your vibrant energy that you are meant to bring to this world. And that is the point. You are meant to bring your vibrancy to this world. So ask yourself, are you fully doing it? Or are some of these old wounds holding you back? Use this podcast as a chance to just explore some of your history, explore some of the things that have been maybe making you smaller. And is there any part of you that still has fear about speaking up when things aren't right for you, saying no when things aren't right for you, saying no to men, putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, making yourself feel like you have to shut your mouth or quieten yourself or dim your light in any way? All of these things are things that women deal with every single day, and it's time to stop. It's time to stop doing it, because we don't need to anymore. We are safe to be who we want to be. We are safe to be attractive to people. We are safe to be attractive to clients. We are safe to allow and attract in more. And we need to bring that energy back. We need to start running our businesses from this place. We need to start finding our power again, so that the future generations are not dealing with this same crap that we're dealing with now. And we'd love to think that we've moved on years, but we really haven't in some ways. Every time you silence yourself, every time you make yourself small, every time you stay in a situation that doesn't feel powerful to you, you are just reinforcing that wound over and over again. And it's time to stop. And that's what we're going to be doing more and more as you listen to this podcast. We're going to be bringing out that power inside of you, because you were born to become unstoppable. You were not born to play small. And if you feel like you were, this maybe isn't the podcast for you. But I know you are. I know you're in the right place. And I know we're going to be uncovering so much more. I want you to just reflect. Don't get hung up on anything you find. Just know that knowing it, acknowledging it, means that you can change it. And that is where the power is. So once you can acknowledge it, you know that everything's just going to get better and better. And let's get a card from the Becoming Unstoppable deck this week. I celebrate my progress and allow abundance to flow into my life. I celebrate my progress and allow abundance to flow into my life. Remember, this card is all about allowing. It's not about striving. It's not about fighting. It's not about hustling. It's about saying you've already achieved so much. So one, celebrate. Even if you feel like you're showing off, I want you to celebrate. And I want you to start to see that you can allow even more in. So whoever needed that one this week, I hope it's hit home, and have the best week, and I'll catch you next time. And if you do want to come and join Visibility Queen, go to my website. All the details are on there, and there's a space just for you. Bye.